Welcome to Accounting 202, Managerial Accounting at Kapiolani Community College. In this video, we'll take a look at how to solve a relatively straightforward process cost problem. This comes from our textbook, Exercise 1710. The problem reads that the company had units in beginning work in process, and units started into production of 20,000 and 164,000. That means between these two, they were working on 184,000 units of product. Now the units that are still not done as of the end of the period are 24,000. So that must mean that 160,000 did get completed. 20,000 plus 164,000 is the 184,000 that they were working on, minus the 24,000 that are not done at the end of the period is 160,000 that are done. So we'll take the 160,000 units that are done as well as the 24,000 units that are done and drop them in our area where we're tracking physical number of units. 160 for completed, transferred out, and 24,000 for both materials and conversion costs, because no matter what percentage done they are, there are still 24,000 actual units being worked on. So these are actual physical units being worked on. We're going to go through and come up with the number of equivalent units for purposes of direct materials and for purposes of conversion costs. Then we're going to get the information about the dollar amount of each of those costs and total, just for the kicks, and come up with a cost per equivalent unit or per full unit for both direct materials and conversion costs, and also the combined total. And using that, we'll come up with our green number, which is the cost of goods manufactured. So we're going to transfer those to finished goods inventory from work in process. So let's continue on. We've completed 160,000 units, and if they're completed, they must be 100% complete. And we have 24,000 units, which the problem tells us is 60% done as far as conversion cost is concerned, but 100% done as far as materials are concerned. So they must have put in all the materials at the beginning of the production process, and they're about 60% of the way done with finishing them up. So we'll drop those in across from each of their respective line items. And then we just multiply across. For the completed units, the number of completed units as to direct materials is exactly the same as the number of physical units. So equivalent units equals physical units for all completed units, always, for every problem. And 24,000 times 100%, same as the number of physical units because they're 100% complete as to materials. And 60,000 of conversion costs we don't need in this column because this is the column where we're tracking our direct materials, not conversion costs. Now, carrying on, we need the number of equivalent units for conversion costs too. So the completed units, same thing as for direct materials, they're 100% done as far as conversion cost on the completed units. And they're 60% done as far as the ending work in process, so we multiply that across and get 14,400, and then we add the two up just like we added up for direct materials over here. Now, we have to go off and gather our information about costs. In this problem, there's no beginning inventory, but they indicated that the costs that were incurred were the following ones listed here. I'm going to assume, just for purposes of simplicity, that the dollars in beginning work in process, there weren't any, even though they tell us that there were units in beginning work in process, because all I really need is total manufacturing costs for direct materials and conversion costs, really, to do the rest of the work. I don't actually have to know how much was in beginning in order to get this done. So let's look at the costs incurred is really total costs of work in process for direct materials, total costs of work in process for conversion. So we'll drop them in where they belong. 101,000 for conversion costs as listed in the problem. Again, 164,000 for labor and 184,000 for overhead. Those are my conversion costs, and I might as well carry them across. So I have a total of $450,000 total costs in work in process both combined for direct materials and conversion costs. But I need to keep them separate because I have to do two separate computations with them. The first one I'm going to do is unit costs for direct materials. So I'll take the total costs in work in process for conversion costs and divide that by the equivalent units of work done as far as conversion costs are concerned, and I'll get the unit cost as far as conversion costs are concerned for each unit. Then I'll take and drop that in on my schedule up above so that I can use it to do some multiplication in a little while. And I'll calculate the unit cost for direct materials too by taking my total costs in work in process for direct materials, $101,200, and dividing by my total equivalent units as far as direct materials are concerned. So I get 55 cents. The combined total of both of those is $255, but I only get to use that in one place, and that is for the completed units because they're complete as to both materials and conversion costs. So now I have enough material or information to carry across dollars combined with units. So my ending work in process, complete as to material, the value of that 13,200. My ending work in process, level of completeness as to conversion cost, the value of that 28,800. And for my completed units, 160,000 of them at $2.55 each, 408,000. Notice that my total here of 450,000 is exactly the same as my total cost and work in process for both direct materials and conversion costs. Now all I have to do is make the journal entry to transfer these costs from work in process, where I'm dealing with them, to finished goods inventory. And that's simply a matter of debiting the new account and crediting the old account. The new account being finished goods inventory and the old account being work in process inventory. Thanks for listening. Hope this helped.